In this video, we are going to learn about internal structure of spinal cord. Spinal cord consists of inner gray matter and outer white matter. Gray matter. It is seen as H-shaped or butterfly shaped. It consists of two comma-shaped lateral masses connected by transverse gray commissure. These are comma-shaped lateral masses connected by transverse gray commissure. Central canal passes through center of gray commissure. You can see the central canal. It passes through center of gray commissure. Lateral comma-shaped mass of gray matter consists of broad anterior horn and narrow posterior horn. In all thoracic upper two lumbar segments, that is L1 L2 segments, S2 S3 S4 segments, there is an additional horn called lateral horn. You can see in the thoracic segment there is an additional horn called lateral horn. Lateral horn is present in all thoracic segments, L1 L2 segments, S2 S3 S4 segments. Dorsal horn is comprised of sensory neurons. Ventral horn is comprised of motor neurons. Dorsal horn is comprised of sensory neurons. Ventral horn is comprised of motor neurons. Nerve cells in gray substance are multipolar. Many of them are Golgi type 1 and Golgi type 2 nerve cells. Golgi type 1 cells have long axons. They leave the gray matter and they either join the anterior nerve roots or fiber tracts of white column. Golgi type 1 cells have long axons. They leave the gray matter. They either join the anterior nerve roots or fiber tracts of white column. Golgi type 2 cells have short axons. They do not leave the gray matter. They remain intersegmental. They have short axons. They do not leave gray matter. They remain intersegmental. Now let's see characteristic features of spinal segments. Cervical segment oval in shape. Thoracic segments are small and circular in shape. Lumbar segments large and circular. Sacral segments circular or quadrilateral in shape. Oval, small and circular, large and circular, circular or quadrilateral in shape. Horns of segments. Horns of cervical segment. Posterior horn is slender, anterior horn is broad and massive. Horns in thoracic segments. Both the posterior and anterior horns are slender. Horns in lumbar segments. Both posterior and anterior horns are bulbous. Horns in sacral segments. Both the anterior and posterior horns are massive. Horns in cervical segment. Posterior is slender, anterior is broad and massive. In thoracic, both are slender. In lumbar, both are bulbous. In sacral, both are massive. Lateral horn. It is present in all thoracic segments. It is present only in L1, L2 lumbar segments. It is present in S2, S3, S4 segments. Now let's see about cell groups in gray matter. Anterior horn has 3 cell groups: medial group, central group, lateral group. Lateral horn has 2 cell groups: intermedio-medial nucleus, intermedio-lateral nucleus. Posterior horn has 4 cell groups: nucleus dorsalis, visceral afferent nucleus, nucleus proprius, substantia gelatinosa. Anterior horn, it consists of 3 cell groups: medial group, central group, lateral group. Medial group, it is present along entire cord. It supplies neck and trunk muscles. Lateral group, extent of lateral group corresponds to extent of cervical enlargement and lumbar enlargement. Cervical enlargement is from C4 to T1 spinal segments. Lumbar enlargement is from L2 to S3 segments. It supplies limb muscles, upper limb and lower limb muscles. Remember L, limb. Central group. It consists of phrenic nucleus and spinal accessory nucleus. Phrenic nucleus extends from C3 to C5 segments. It supplies diaphragm. Spinal accessory nucleus. It extends from C1 to C5 segments. It gives origin to spinal root of accessory nerve. Medial group, it is present along entire cord. Central group, it consists of phrenic nucleus, spinal accessory nucleus. Phrenic nucleus extends from C3 to C5 segments. Spinal accessory nucleus extends from C1 to C5 segments. Lateral group, it extends from C4 to T1 segments and L2 to S3 segments. Medial group supplies neck and trunk muscles. Lateral group supplies limb muscles. Central group, phrenic nucleus supplies diaphragm. Spinal accessory nucleus gives origin to spinal root of accessory nerve. Lateral horn, it consists of intermedial-medial nucleus, intermediolateral nucleus. Intermedial-medial nucleus, it extends from S2 to S4 segments. It is source of preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. We know that craniosacral outflow refers to origin of parasympathetic fibers. S2 to S4, source of preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. Intermediolateral nucleus, T1 to L2, source of preganglionic sympathetic fibers. Thoracolumbar outflow refers to origin of sympathetic fibers. Intermediolateral nucleus, T1 to L2, source of preganglionic sympathetic fibers. Posterior horn, it consists of four cell groups: substantia gelatinosa, nucleus proprius, nucleus dorsalis, visceral afferent nucleus. Substantia gelatinosa, it is present along entire cord. It is relay nucleus for pain and temperature sensations. Lateral spinothalamic tract carries pain and temperature sensations. You can see that the fibers of first order neurons of lateral spinothalamic tract relay into posterior horn cells in the region of substantia gelatinosa. Nucleus proprius, it is present along entire cord. It contains internuncial neurons for spinal reflexes. Nucleus proprius present along entire cord. It contains internuncial neurons for spinal reflexes. Nucleus dorsalis or Clarke's column. It extends from C8 to L2 or L3 segments. It gives origin to axons of posterior spinocerebellar tract. You can see that the fibers of first order neurons of posterior spinocerebellar tract terminate in nucleus dorsalis. The axons of second order neurons arises from nucleus dorsalis. Visceral afferent nucleus, it extends from T1 to L2, S2 to S4. Remember the segments in which the lateral horn is present. Receives visceral afferents. Now let's see about laminar organization of the spinal cord. In thick sections, spinal cord neurons appear to have a laminar or layered arrangement. 10 layers of neurons are recognized, also known as laminae of Rex. 10 layers of neurons are recognized. These are numbered consecutively by Roman numerals, starting at the tip of the dorsal horn and moving ventrally into the ventral horn. You can see they are numbered consecutively by Roman numericals, starting from the tip of the posterior horn and moving ventrally into the ventral horn. Rexed laminae, corresponding gray column nuclei. 1. Posterior marginal nucleus. 2. Substantia gelatinosa. 3 and 4. Nucleus proprius. 5 and 6. Base of dorsal column. 7. Nucleus dorsalis. Intermedial-medial nucleus. Intermediolateral nucleus. 8 and 9. Medial and lateral groups of nuclei of anterior gray column. Medial and lateral groups of anterior horn. 8 and 9. Medial and lateral groups of anterior horn. 10. Surrounds the central canal, composed of gray commissure and substantia gelatinosa centralis. Now let's see about white matter. White matter surrounds central H-shaped gray matter. It mainly consists of nerve fibers. Divisions of white matter. It consists of 3 white columns: posterior white column, lateral white column, anterior white column. Posterior white column or dorsal column, it is present between posterior median septum and posterior horn. Lateral column, it is present between posterior horn and anterior horn. Anterior white column, it is present between anterior median fissure and anterior horn. Posterior white column between posterior median septum and posterior horn, lateral white column between posterior horn and anterior horn, anterior white column between anterior median fissure and anterior horn. Each white column is made up of tracts, which are ascending, descending, intersegmental. Let us now revise spinal cord. It consists of inner gray matter, outer white matter. Gray matter consists of two lateral comma-shaped masses, which are connected by transverse gray commissure. Lateral comma-shaped mass consists of narrow posterior horn and broad anterior horn. There is an additional lateral horn. It is present in case of all thoracic segments, L1, L2 segments, S2, S3, S4 segments. Gray matter mainly consists of Golgi type 1 and type 2 cells. Characteristic features of spinal segments. Shapes of segments. Cervical segment oval, thoracic segment small and circular, lumbar segment large and circular, sacral segment circular or quadrilateral in shape. Horns of segments. In cervical segment, posterior horn is slender, anterior horn is broad and massive. In thoracic segments, both the horns are slender. In lumbar segment, both the horns are bulbous. In sacral segments, both the horns are massive. Lateral horn is present in all thoracic segments, L1, L2 segments, S2, S3, S4 segments. Cell groups in gray matter. Anterior horn has three cell groups, medial, central, lateral cell groups. Lateral horn has two, intermedio medial, intermedio lateral. Posterior horn has four cell groups, substantia gelatinosa, nucleus proprius, nucleus dorsalis, visceral afferent nucleus. Medial cell group, it is present throughout the spinal cord. It supplies neck and trunk muscles. Lateral cell group, it corresponds to the extent of cervical enlargement C4 to T1 and corresponds to the extent of lumbar enlargement L2 to S3. It supplies limb muscles. Central group consists of phrenic nucleus and spinal accessory nucleus. Phrenic nucleus extends from C3 to C5 segments. It supplies diaphragm. Spinal accessory nucleus, it extends from C1 to C5 segments. It gives origin to spinal root of accessory nerve. Intermediate medial nucleus, it extends along S2, S3, S4 segments. Source of preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. Intermediolateral T1 to L2 segments. It is source of preganglionic sympathetic fibers. Posterior horn substantia gelatinosa, it extends along the entire cord. It is relay nucleus for pain and temperature sensations. Nucleus proprius, it is also present along the entire cord. It contains internuncial neurons for spinal reflexes. Nucleus dorsalis, it is present from C8 to L2 or L3 segments. It gives origin to axons of posterior spinocerebellar tract. Visceral afferent nucleus, its extent, thoracic segments L1, L2, S2, S3, S4 segments. In the segments in which the lateral horn is present, it receives visceral afferents. Text laminae corresponding gray column nuclei 1. Posterior marginal nucleus 2. Substantia gelatinosa 3, 4. Nucleus proprius 5, 6. Base of the dorsal column 7. Nucleus dorsalis intermediate medial nucleus intermediate lateral nucleus 8, 9. Medial group and lateral group of the anterior horns 10. It surrounds the central canal.